up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT. I hope that y'all had a great 4th of July weekend. And I'm a little mad at some of y'all because I saw some of those plays that y'all were posting and none of y'all bothered to bring me anything, but it's okay. It's okay. All is forgiven since you're tuned into this episode. But what I can't forgive is the disrespect that Eagles fans are throwing at Cam Newton, having the audacity to say that Jalen Hurts is better than 2015 MVP Cam Newton. Eagles fans have reached an all-time high in delusion, because that's exactly what this post is by this Eagles fan on X. Obviously, this was engagement bait because he paid for the blue check mark, so you can only infer from this post that this Eagles fan is basically trying to say that Jalen Hurts is better than MVP Cam Newton, which is absolute blasphemy. Jalen Hurts in his peak cannot hold a candlestick to 2015 Cam Newton. Cam Newton, the year he won MVP and carried the Carolina Panthers to Super Bowl 50, he did it with Ted Ginn Jr. being his number one receiver. Meanwhile, you got Jalen Hurts having a God squad around him, throwing the A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, arguably the best receiving duo in the league, a top 5 offensive line, a top 3 defense. Cam Newton didn't have any of those things outside of having a great defense the year that he wore the Carolina Panthers to the Super Bowl. And remind you that during that 2015 playoff run by Carolina, they beat not just the Legion of Boom, but an all-time great Arizona Cardinals team. Jalen Hurts had a relatively easy path to the Super Bowl this past season. The toughest team that they played was the Los Angeles Rams. You were able to beat the snot out of the Washington Commanders, but you had the obvious talent advantage in that game. Jalen Hurts, I can't reiterate this enough, is a top 5 quarterback in the league. And he, without a doubt, is an elite quarterback. But that's not enough for Eagles fans. Eagles fans aren't going to stop until you get down on your knees, you bow down, and you admit that Jalen Hurts is the greatest quarterback in the history of the NFL, because that's how they view Jalen Hurts. At this point, you say Jalen Hurts is better than Lamar Jackson. You say that Jalen Hurts is better than Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. Now you want to get even more delusional and say that he's better than Cam Newton when he won MVP, when Cam Newton did way more with less than what Jalen Hurts did. Jalen Hurts had one of the greatest teams to ever win a Super Bowl surrounding him. You had Saquon Barkley, who's going to be a future Hall of Famer. You're playing with multiple Hall of Famers on both offense and defense. There were only about 2 Hall of Fame players that Cam Newton had the year that he willingly dragged the Carolina Panthers to the Super Bowl. Cam Newton, at his prime, clears Jalen Hurts. There's a reason why he was called Superman. The dude was Derrick Henry at quarterback. And the Carolina Panthers failed Cam Newton because they didn't want to give him a decent supporting cast until he was on the last leg of his career, after he got beat down and beat up with referees not wanting to call penalties, where guys were obviously trying to take him out. And then 2, the Panthers, when they got Chris McCaffrey and DJ Moore, that's when you saw Cam Newton start to exit the prime of his career. Jalen Hurts, on the other hand, has had a great team since his second season in Philadelphia. I'm not knocking the Eagles for giving Jalen Hurts a great situation. What I'm knocking is that Eagles fans fail to understand that 2015 Cam Newton did way more with a less talented team than what Jalen Hurts did with a stacked roster. Of course, it was going to be easy for Jalen Hurts to have a great performance in the Super Bowl when you had so much weaponry around him. If you put Jalen Hurts on that 2015 Carolina Panthers team, they don't even make it out of the divisional round. They definitely wouldn't have beat the Legion of Boom with Jalen Hurts at quarterback in replace of Cam Newton. But put Cam Newton On this past year's Philadelphia Eagles team, they go undefeated. They go a perfect 17-0. Super Cam on the 2024 Philadelphia Eagles, with everything that he never got, the majority of his career in Carolina would have been an illegal team. Eagles fans have to cut it out at this point. There's a difference between loving your quarterback and just flat out glazing them just to glaze them. And that's what Eagles fans do. They cross the line between fandom and just straight out blasphemy. Because that's what this post is. I could not believe my eyes when I literally saw this. You can respond to life in two ways. You mean to tell me that Cam Newton was supposed to respond with an offensive line that was nowhere as good as Philadelphia's, having tagged in Devin Funchess and Greg Olsen to throw the football to? Are you kidding me? Jonathan Stewart behind him at running back compared to a Saquon Barkley? Are we serious right now? Is this how we're going to try to diminish the greatness of Super Cam? Cam Newton literally was the Carolina Panthers. Look what the Panthers have been since Cam Newton has retired. They've been irrelevant. That's the impact of losing a franchise quarterback. And you can knock Cam for not diving on the football. That's a discussion for another day. But the Panthers obviously were outmatched in Super Bowl 50 by a stout Denver Broncos defense and a team that had a great game plan for being able to stop Carolina, which was contain Cam Newton. If you shut down Cam Newton, the Carolina Panthers had no shot to win, which a lot of teams were unable to do, hence why he won MVP. He had 45 touchdowns in that season. 10 of those came on the ground without the tush push. Meanwhile, you got Jalen Hurts inflating all of his rushing numbers with that cheat code play. It's just downright disrespectful to even mention Jalen Hurts in the same breath as 2015 MVP Cam Newton. That was one of the all-time great MVP seasons that we have had in the NFL over the last decade. Eagles fans are losing it. The NFL season is already over. The Ravens have won the Super Bowl. We don't need to play any games this season to know that the Ravens are going to be the team that ends up winning it all and hoisting the Lombardi when it's all said and done. This is the greatest team ever assembled. The Ravens have a perfect football team entering this season. They're stacked everywhere. They added DeAndre Hopkins in free agency. Now you got to try to stop him, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, and Derrick Henry on top of Lamar Jackson as well with the great offensive line. The Ravens offense is going to average at least 40 points per game, and Lamar Jackson is probably going to throw 45 to 50 touchdowns. And if you thought that the Ravens offense was unstoppable, boy, oh boy, look at how stacked this defense is. The Ravens have assembled the best secondary in NFL history. With Jair Alexander now in the secondary, the Ravens have a better secondary than what the Seattle Seahawks did during the prime years of the Legion of Boom. They got 3 All-Pros now. You got Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Hamilton, and now Jair Alexander, along with a Nate Wiggins that had a fantastic rookie season. And let's not forget, they somehow were able to get their hands on Malachi Starks, who's an absolute freak. How can anybody complete a pass on this defense? Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, whoever has to play against this defense in the playoffs, good luck to you, because you're going to need it, because it's going to be doggone near impossible to get more than 5 yards when you throw the ball against this shutdown secondary. This is the greatest secondary ever assembled. They have 3 All-Pros, 2 potential addition All-Pros with Nate Wiggins and Malachi Starks. Lamar Jackson is going to get his first ring this year. And when he does, he's going to be the greatest quarterback in NFL history. If Eagles fans are now saying that Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in the NFL, only winning 1 ring, then Lamar Jackson winning the Super Bowl this year makes him the greatest quarterback in NFL history, because Lamar Jackson has the ability to throw the ball like Tom Brady in his prime, and he's running the ball like he's Barry Sanders. There is not a single quarterback that has ever played this game that is pound for pound better than Lamar Jackson. If you were to create a quarterback on Madden and you maxed out his stats, you gave him 99 everything, you essentially would have created Lamar Jackson, because that's what Lamar Jackson is. The Ravens are going to cruise to the Super Bowl this year. The only thing that's been stopping the Baltimore Ravens from winning a Super Bowl these last couple of years has been themselves. They've been a better team than everybody that they've lost to these past 2 years in the playoffs. It's not the Ravens versus the Bills or the Ravens versus the Chiefs. It's the Ravens versus the Ravens every single year, because they are the only team that, in spite of how talented they are, they continuously find ways to beat themselves. But now they've made it impossible for them to beat themselves, because their offense has to be outright atrocious and just willingly hand the defense the ball for them to lose, because their defense is not going to allow a single touchdown to be scored this season and during the playoffs, because it's impossible to move the football on the secondary that has 3 All-Pros. It's just impossible. I can't fathom any quarterback having success against this Ravens secondary this year. And that doesn't include how good their defensive line is, with Adafiowe coming off a breakout season. You got Justin Madubuike, one of the best interior defensive linemen in the league. Calvin Noy seems to be getting better with age. The Ravens have already won the Super Bowl this year. The NFL just needs to cancel the season and ship Lamar his first Super Bowl ring along with that Lombardi trophy. We don't need to see a single game get played this year to know that this is going to be the team that ends up winning it all. This is the most obvious preseason Super Bowl pick in the history of this league. There's not a single team that comes close to rivaling the Ravens and talent outside of the Philadelphia Eagles. And we know what Lamar Jackson does against the NFC. He's only lost 2 times in his career to NFC opponents. When Lamar gets his first ring this year, I can't wait to be as delusional about him as what Eagles fans are now with Jalen Hurts winning his first ring. If Jalen Hurts winning a ring makes him the best quarterback in the NFL, then Lamar Jackson getting his first ring makes him the greatest quarterback in NFL history. This is the Ravens' year. You can say, we've been saying this about Baltimore for the past 2-3 years. Eventually, this team has to break through, and this is the year where it's impossible for the Ravens to come up short. Last year, Bo Nix had the second greatest season statistically for a rookie quarterback. He threw 29 touchdowns, which was second all time for a first-year QB behind Justin Herbert. He led the Broncos to a 10-7 record and an appearance in the playoffs. And how good Bo Nix was during his rookie season with the Broncos was overshadowed because of how great Jayden Daniels was. And although Bo Nix had better numbers than Jayden Daniels, because Jayden Daniels went the furthest of the 2 quarterbacks in the playoffs, 1 game shy of the Super Bowl, Bo Nix was overshadowed in his first season. But in his second season under Sean Payton and with this Broncos team, I feel we could see him have an MVP leap this year. He has one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. You got an improved group of wide receivers. You drafted Pat Bryant. You got Evan Ingram, who's going to be filling that Joker role. The ground game should be really good as well. And Sean Payton, with him still calling the plays as one of the greatest offensive minds ever, we could see Bo Nix follow down the same path that Mahomes and Lamar did when they won MVP their second seasons in the NFL. And Bo Nix, not only could we see him take that MVP leap this year, but he possibly could have the Denver Broncos playing in the Super Bowl. The Broncos have one of the best rosters in the AFC this year. Not only are they really good on offense, but they got one of the best defenses in the NFL along with a shutdown secondary. So it would not surprise me if we saw Bo Nix have a huge year too based off what he did in his first season, because it wasn't expected for him to be as good as what he was. If anything, his rookie season was supposed to be his peak, because remember when the Broncos made the decision to draft Bo Nix, it was met with a bunch of criticism. Remember, Sean Payton was out of touch. He made a mistake moving on from Russell Wilson and replacing him with Bo Nix, a guy who was supposed to be a check down merchant, even though Bo Nix made a lot of big throws downfield last season. And also, he was a credible athlete. You saw that on display when he was at Oregon and Auburn, and you saw a lot of glimpses of that last year. And Sean Payton had to adapt his offense around Bo Nix, which is why he kind of got out to a slow start. But once he really got rolling during the middle part of the season, he looked like a top 10 quarterback in a more athletic version of Drew Brees. And with Sean Payton now having a better understanding of what works with Bo Nix, and Bo Nix getting a better grasp of Sean Payton's offense, because this isn't the easiest offense to learn your first season in the league. You can start 10 years of college football and still struggle to learn Sean Payton's offense, because he has so much verbiage and so much that you have to understand from a pre-snap standpoint, that for Bo Nix to be as good as what he was in his rookie season really scares me as he approaches his second year. And the NFL is going to be out of luck if Bo Nix does indeed take that MVP leap, because not only does that mean that the Broncos should be a playoff lock, but they also could be good enough to knock off Kansas City, the Bills, or the Ravens if they see any of those teams in the playoffs with how well equipped this roster is to make a Super Bowl run. Bo Nix development is really the biggest thing that's going to determine how far this Broncos team can go. And I doubt that we see Bo Nix have a sophomore slump, because with the genius of Sean Payton, I trust that he's going to have Bo Nix playing at an even better level than what we saw in his first season. I feel like his rookie season is the worst that we're going to see out of him, because when he was at Oregon, he was really good taking care of the football. He threw 12 interceptions last year, and he wasn't really that good against playoff teams. Well, this year, with him being more comfortable with this team, having a better personnel around him, I think that the NFL's in a lot of trouble with Bo Nix going into his second season. It would not surprise me if we see him put up an MVP campaign and lead the Broncos to the Super Bowl. I don't think that the Super Bowl is going to come down to just the Eagles, the Rams, the Bills, Chiefs, and Ravens like how it has these last couple of years. I think there's going to be a team that enters that Super Bowl bubble that we don't really see coming, and the Broncos aren't really being talked about that much as a Super Bowl contender. They're more viewed as a dark horse Super Bowl team, but this is a team that probably should be a little bit more in the forefront of that conversation, because the roster is good, the defense is fantastic, and if Bo Nix makes this possible MVP leap, there's no reason why the Broncos couldn't be playing in the Super Bowl this year. Don't be surprised if Pete Carroll has the Raiders in the playoffs this season. He's going to have the Raiders looking like some junkyard dogs out there. Ashton Jeanty is going to be the identity of this offense. Everywhere that Pete Carroll has been, he's always had a dominant rushing attack. That's why they took Ashton Jeanty 6th overall, and he's going to fix the biggest issue, one of many that the Raiders had last year, which was the inability to play complementary football because their rushing attack was dead last in the NFL. Ashton Jeanty is a future Hall of Fame back. He has elite vision, elite contact balance, everything that you look for in an elite running back, Ashton Jeanty possesses. And when the Seattle Seahawks had that running game going with Geno Smith, that's when he played his best football, which is how Geno Smith is going to end up giving the Raiders top 12 quarterback play this year. When Pete Carroll was able to resurrect Geno Smith's career it was not just because Geno Smith was really good that season and he just called lightning in a bottle, but because he had the ground game that helped make life easier for him. Because Geno Smith is one of the best play action passers in the National Football League. That's why he's so great at generating a bunch of explosive plays downfield. The Raiders' second biggest issue on offense outside of their inability to run the football at all was that they didn't generate a lot of explosive plays. With Geno Smith, you're getting a guy that last season was number one in explosive pass rate. This guy is a big play machine. Since the last 3 years when Geno Smith took over as the Seahawks starting quarterback, he has led the NFL in big play touchdowns that have went for over 20 yards or more. And with him throwing the Brock Bowers, the best tight end in the game, you got Jacoby Myers, Jack Bash, and big play Trey Tucker at receiver. Geno Smith has more than enough to play at a high enough level for the Raiders to get to the playoffs this year. And the Raiders defense, nobody's talking about how good their defensive line is going to be this year. This is the most expensive defensive line in the NFL walking into this season. We know how good Max Crosby is. We know how much of a dog Christian Wilkins is when he's fully healthy. But you also have Malcolm Koonce, who's coming back from an injury, who had a breakout campaign in 2023 with 8 sacks. There is a lot of talent on this Raiders front seven that's going to be able to make up for the limitations that they may have at cornerback and that safety this year. And Pete Carroll, with the amount of experience that he has coaching, this is going to be a way better coached team, which makes this a team that you don't want to get into a dogfight with late in the fourth quarter. There were 4 one-score games that the Raiders lost last year that they easily could have won if they had better coaching, like when they had that botch snap in that Black Friday loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. You had special teams mishaps that hurt this team as well. Pete Carroll is going to have this team looking miles better just because of him becoming the head coach, being able to fix things that have nothing to do with talent. Antonio Pierce was a first-time head coach who was learning on the job, and you could obviously tell that with how this team in certain situations would just beat themselves with mistakes that make you throw your hands up and say, how the hell does that happen? Pete Carroll is going to have the Raiders having better awareness in big situations when it comes to having a better knack for when to go for it on fourth down, when to just concede and take the 3 points, which was a huge issue that Antonio Pierce had. He just didn't have a good feel for the game. He didn't have a good understanding of when to be aggressive, when to be conservative. He was all over the place. Pete Carroll fixes a lot of the problems that the Raiders had last season, not pertaining to the level of talent that they had on the field. The Broncos and the Chargers both made it to the postseason last year, despite not being expected to before the season started, because their rosters didn't look like playoff teams, but they were able to overachieve because they had great coaching. The Raiders could have the same thing happen to them this season that their 2 divisional opponents had happen last year. When you get a good coach, it changes a lot of things for you that talent doesn't necessarily always fix. You can have a talented team and still underachieve if you don't have a coach that can put the great players in position to make plays. Pete Carroll, I believe that he can have the Raiders competing for the 7th or 6th seed in the AFC. But my rec prediction for the Raiders overall, I got them anywhere between 8 to 10 wins. This is not a team that you can sleep on just because they may not have the most talented roster on paper. They're going to win a few games that you're going to be shocked they even had a chance at winning it all. But with the junkyard dog mentality that Pete Carroll is going to bring to this franchise, it's going to have them in games that shouldn't be close. And anytime you're able to make a game close, despite being at a talent disadvantage, you got a chance to win, especially when you have capable quarterback play with a supporting cast that's good enough for Geno Smith to put up good numbers with. And this is an offensive line that should look a lot better this year than what it did last year. And Geno Smith, he had some up and downs last season in Seattle, but it was more due to the limitations that he had to overcome. The ground game was non-existent. The offensive line was an abomination. And they just said, hey, Geno, we need you to put everything on your shoulders and carry us to wins. And Geno Smith isn't that kind of quarterback. You have to somewhat give him a little bit of some help. And he has that with Pete Carroll. And he has that with Chip Kelly calling the plays, with the talent that he has around him. The Seahawks had JSN, but they didn't have a Brock Bowers. Jack Bech could be one of the best rookie wide receivers in the league this year. He got a similar season to what Lat McConkey had last year with the Chargers. There is a lot to like about the Raiders going into this season. And if everything goes right for this team, Pete Carroll can have this squad in the playoffs. And this definitely could be a team that, like the last couple of years when you had the Washington Commanders, you had the Jaguars year one under Doug Peterson make it to the playoffs. They can be that sleeper team that they hire a new head coach, and that's what helps them make it to the playoffs. You don't always need a stacked team to be a playoff team. Sometimes all you need is just competent coaching with some stable quarterback play, an Ashton Genty talent at running back, and boom, that's what gets you into the dance in January. The NFL continues to underestimate the abilities of Travis Hunter. I came across this clip of Travis Kelce when he made a guest appearance on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast, and they asked him how good did he believe Travis Hunter was going to be in the NFL, and this is what he had to say.
Do you think he's going to be good in the NFL?
Hell
That's
yes.
a hard question to ask because you're still active.
100%.
But like, what's the expectation of this
World-class
kid? All
athlete.
pro, both sides?
Both sides? See, that's the thing. I don't know how they're going to
It's crazy
divvy it out. I don't know if because teams are going to be going after him. If he plays corner, they're going to run deep balls at him all day. They're going to run the wide receivers, just take off on him all day just to try and get him tired.
Yeah.
Like,
his aura, his attitude, like
He's got
pregame,
the
everything.
juice.
He's got the juice and he plays.
yeah.
He loves football.
I saw him play basketball and I was like, oh yeah,
An athlete.
he's an athlete.
You see, what the NFL is getting wrong about Travis Hunter is that they think that he has no conditioning. He doesn't have the stamina necessary to play both ways at a high level. And that couldn't be further from the truth, because his last 2 years in Colorado have been training him to play both ways at a high level in the National Football League, to where it's not impossible for him to be an all-pro receiver and cornerback, because Colorado is 5,500 feet above sea level, which means that there's lower oxygen levels, making it harder to breathe. And yet Travis Hunter was playing over 100 snaps a game, along with the amount of practice hours that he had to put in with Colorado, and he was dominating, showing that he has elite conditioning and elite stamina, which is the two necessary things that he must have if he's going to be a successful two-way player in the league. And yet everybody's overlooking this. If you can play the amount of snaps that Travis Hunter did and those conditions where it's just incredibly tough to breathe, then he definitely has what it takes to be a dominant two-way player in the NFL, especially with the NFL having less plays per game than what Travis Hunter had to play in college. In college, they run on average 175 plays. In the NFL, they run 22 plays less at 153. So Travis essentially is going to get more breathers in the league than what he got when he was playing for Coach Prime. Travis Hunter, let's just not make it as if this dude is some kind of gimmicky player. Not only is he an elite corner, but he has the potential to be a Hall of Fame level cornerback. He has elite ball skills, great instincts. If you're running cover two and you throw it anywhere to Travis Hunter's side, that's a suicide mission. And if you think that attacking Travis Hunter by throwing a bunch of goal balls his way is going to tire him out, you're sadly mistaken. He has elite stamina and conditioning. You cannot play both ways of the football in Colorado with that altitude and with how hard it is to breathe without being cut different as far as what it means to be an elite conditioned athlete. What Travis Hunter did at Colorado was not normal. That's why he won the Heisman Trophy. That's why he was the nation's best receiver and the nation's best defensive player. And everybody recognized that this guy was special. Travis Hunter is not a football player. This is a man-child. This is a player that the NFL doesn't understand. So that's why they keep underestimating his abilities. We've never seen somebody as dominant playing both receiver and cornerback enter the NFL. There's no comparisons for Travis Hunter. Deion Sanders and Charles Woodson played both ways in college, but not at a high. They didn't play at as high as level or as high as a level as what Travis Hunter did. Yeah, they were good on the defense side of the football, but they only made a handful of plays sparingly on offense as compared to Travis Hunter, who essentially was the best offensive player that Colorado had these past 2 seasons. Colorado had a guy that was not normal, and that's what's walking into the NFL, and people tend to not understand things that they've never seen before. They seem to say it's impossible for him to do it because it's never been done. And there's no such thing as anything being impossible. It just hasn't been proven to be possible yet. And that's what it is with Travis Hunter as far as him being able to play both cornerback and wide receiver at an all-pro level. I believe that he can do it. And the Jaguars have a game plan with Travis Hunter. They mostly are going to use him on the offense, and they're going to have some special packages with him on defense. And Travis Hunter doesn't have to play both receiver and cornerback full time to make a significant impact on the Jaguars this year. Every time he's on the field, he's a threat to make a big play. Rather, if you want to test him in a third down situation and throw the ball to his side, okay, go ahead and do that and see how he makes you pay. If you want to try to jam him on the line of scrimmage when he's playing receiver, good luck, because he can end up toasting you for a 60-yard touchdown when you go ahead and do that. Travis Hunter has been playing both ways for his entire football career. This isn't new to him. He's no stranger to this. The NFL is just a stranger to Travis Hunter because they keep putting limits on what we've never seen somebody try to do. And you can make projections and predictions and say that it's insane for him to do it, but if he can do it at Colorado, he can definitely do it in the NFL when he's not playing at such a high elevation. It's much easier to breathe in Jacksonville than what it is in Denver. The guy was being conditioned to dominate both ways in the NFL for the past 2 years that he's been playing under Deion Sanders at Boulder. I still don't understand why the NFL doesn't take Travis Hunter more seriously when it comes to his abilities to play both ways, but I wouldn't be shocked if we seen him win both Defensive Rookie of the Year and Offensive Player of the Year because he has that kind of talent. I don't know what Brian Daboll did to piss the NFL schedule makers off, but they have it out for him this year. He ticked off the wrong people because the New York Giants have the toughest schedule in the NFL this season. And normally, when you have a team like them that comes in last place in their division, they're supposed to get an easier schedule the following year, but that isn't the case this year, man. The New York Giants, not only are they playing in a loaded division with the NFC East having the reigning Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles still having the God Squad. You got the Commanders who gave Jaden Daniels even more talent than what he had to work with last year, so they still are going to be a really good team. And you got a Cowboys team that is being a little bit underestimated this year. Injuries were a main reason why their season went the way that it did last year. Now they're fully healthy, and they still have one of the better rosters in the NFL. So not only are the New York Giants in an incredibly difficult division, but then they got to play two of the other toughest divisions in the NFL this season, with the AFC West, who's going to have 4 future Hall of Fame coaches that the Giants got to go up against. Every team in the AFC West that the Giants are going to play not just has solid or really good quarterback play, but they also are going to have really good defenses that they're going to be matched up against. Then they got to play the gauntlet that is the NFC North, with a division that had 3 playoff teams last year from this division. The Lions, the Vikings, the Packers, all were in the postseason, and they all can be in the playoffs this year, along with a revamped and an improved Chicago Bears squad with Ben Johnson taking over as the head coach. The only easy games that you can look at on the Giants schedule and say, yeah, that's a guaranteed win, are the New Orleans Saints and possibly the New England Patriots. You see, the issue for the Giants is not that they have a bad team, because honestly, after the draft, I felt like the Giants were a sleeper team until I saw how tough their schedule was. They got a pretty decent supporting cast around Russell Wilson. You got 2 really good running backs in Cam Scatterboo, Tyron Tracy, who had a really overlooked rookie season. They got a pretty solid defense as well. Their defensive line is going to be scary. You got Sexy Dexy. You got Brian Burns, Abdul Carter. Let's not forget about Kayvon Thibodeau. I mean, if you were to put the New York Giants in the NFC South or the AFC South, they probably win those divisions. And Brian Daboll isn't a bad coach. He's one of the best offensive minds in the league, but he's been dealt a pretty bad hand by the NFL schedule makers, and it looks like they're trying to get him fired. That's what you can only assume with how difficult this schedule is. I mean, you have no room to breathe. Every week you're playing up against a playoff caliber football team. And yes, the games do have to get played, but is it unrealistic to say that the Giants are going to go 1-16 this year? Because, I mean, how many wins do you see on this schedule? I mean, best case scenario, they get the 7 wins. They split with both the Commanders and the Dallas Cowboys. They beat the Las Vegas Raiders, and they come away with a few upsets elsewhere. They take care of business against the Patriots and the Saints, and maybe they get lucky against the Chiefs or the Detroit Lions. But not only does a lot have to go right for Brian Daboll to save his job this year, but he essentially needs a miracle, because I don't really know what the expectations are from the Giants ownership to want to keep Brian Daboll around for another season, because it seems like they are expecting this to be a playoff team, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And I think it's unrealistic to expect for the Giants to make it to the playoffs with the state that their roster is in right now, and also with how difficult this schedule is. Now, Brian Daboll has to win 7 games to stick around for another year. Okay, that's viable. I can see that happening. I want to be against the New York Giants keeping him around if they can get the 6-7 wins, because with how difficult this schedule is, 6-7 wins is the equivalent to 10 wins playing in the NFC South or the AFC South, because it's just unfair to have a schedule this difficult. And he pissed off the wrong people, man, because I don't know what he said to the NFL schedule makers to just have no mercy on him this season, but it looks like they're trying to get both him and Joe Schoen up on out of there. Maybe the Giants owner said, hey, bro, like, I'm having a difficult time finding a reason to fire these guys. Just do me a favor and make my decision a lot easier for me. Because with how difficult this schedule is, Brian Daboll could be up on out of there before Thanksgiving.